It's delightful to be here. Thank you very much for the invite to ICANN. Fadi Chahadi sends his regards. Unfortunately, he can't be here today. He's in Africa, outreaching to the community there on internet governance issues, but he would have certainly liked to have been here as well. But I'm delighted to be here. It's always a pleasure to be in Rome. Thank you very much to Hamad Toure for your address. Thank you very much to the presidents, President Scotti and Pizzetti, and Luigi, of course, for his boundless enthusiasm, optimism, and general sense of sort of being. I think the title that we have today is very apt, Beyond Dubai. And I think for many of us that were there, we are indeed beyond Dubai. Yes, we need to learn from the past. I'm sure any historian would tell us that. We need to assess what happened. We need to learn our mistakes. We need to learn what took place and try and do better in the future. But I think, Mr. President, we should not wallow in the past. We should not endlessly dig up what happened in terms of recrimination or in terms of trying to, if you like, gain a political advantage from one side over the other. We have to look forward, and thus the apt title of this seminar and conference today. So I think for ICANN there are 3 points coming out of this process and 3 points that we should go forward on. Firstly, ICANN was privileged to be involved at all in the discussions in Dubai, and we thank very much Hamad Toure not only for inviting ICANN, Fadi Chahadi, to speak at the opening of the Dubai session, but also for your very clear messages about what the wicket should cover and what it should not cover. You were clear, sir, and you carried that forward from the beginning to the end, and we're thankful for that. Also, what we saw in Wicket was very important, I think, in terms of the multi-stakeholder community, because ICANN plays just one small role in the internet ecosystem. And indeed, in Dubai and in many other fora throughout the world, we see the efforts of the internet society, the society that sustains such a wide agenda, that sustains chapters in so many different countries, and that extols the virtue of the internet globally. We saw the role of the regional internet registries, and we saw the role of the standards organizations. And that is very important to us all. Firstly, I think we have to look at what ICANN is doing in terms of our role in the domain name system. It is but a small part of the internet ecosystem, but I think an important one. And ICANN, in recognizing the role it has, in recognizing its history, it's relatively young, it was only established in 1998, is changing. Our new president and chief executive, Fadi Chahadi, some of you will have heard him either in Dubai or in Baku or elsewhere, is passionately committed to a new role for ICANN, is passionately committed to globalize ICANN. He announced last week in Dubai that we're opening 2 new global offices, one in Singapore and one appropriately in Istanbul, and it will be a real pleasure to come to Istanbul and have a presence there. And these are not just going to be representative offices, these are not going to be just places where salesmen go and talk to the establishment in those countries. These are going to be presences in those communities, in those time zones, in those areas where senior figures from ICANN will be based. This is all connected with the globalization effort in ICANN to reach out to the global community. What Wicket showed us, what the discussions in Dubai showed us, that many countries do have problems. They have legitimate problems. They have problems, of course, that are outside the scope of ICANN, but they also have problems in terms of domain names, in terms of internet addresses. And ICANN needs to be in the community to address those issues. And thus Fadi Chahadi spent some days in Dubai this week in a major Arab summit on internet governance, along with ISOC and other players, and now is in Ethiopia doing the same with many African players. And this must be the future. The third message, I would say, is the multi-stakeholder approach. The multi-stakeholder approach has been talked about extensively, and it's characterized in many different ways. But to us, it's fundamental. And again, in ICANN, although we're only the domain name system management, if you like, our approach to multi-stakeholderdom is, I think, very important. Indeed, Fadi Jahadi says it's multi-equal stakeholder approach, which I find a rather difficult word to say, but he says it much better. But it's the essence that there are many different stakeholders, and all the different stakeholders must have a role in this debate. We all bring talents to the table, and Luigi has clearly brought many talents to this table this morning, reflecting the academic community, the business community, the cultural community, the government community. And listening to the representatives of the Italian government speaking this morning, we could hear the passion that they have as well for involvement of many different stakeholders in this debate. Within ICANN, we're privileged to have the Government Advisory Committee. The Government Advisory Committee is where the governments come and, if you like, hold ICANN to account in terms of the public policy remit. They have a major role in developing policy within ICANN, and we're privileged in ICANN, within the Government Advisory Committee, to have Stefano Trumpi, who's here today, who's the Italian rep on the GAC and has had many years of service to not only the ICANN community, but also...
Where is Stefano?
Where is Stefano?
Okay.
Stand up. But many years of service...
Also President of ISOC Italy as well.
He's at the table. So, finally then, the multi-stakeholder approach goes beyond, of course, what ICANN is doing. It goes into the heart of the development of the sort of problems that have been outlined both by London School of Economics and other speakers this morning. Yes, there are many problems to be solved. There are many problems which are certainly outside the remit of ICANN, but doing it in this way that we do it, doing it round a table with many of the different actors contributing to the debate, must be the way forward rather than a top-down governmental approach. So as we look forward, Mr. Chairman, to the next 2 years, because I think we are in this pivotal stage, Dr. Torre, far more expertise than many of us in this community, took part, of course, in the World Summit on the Information Society in 2003 and 2005. We're in that period again, I would suggest. Between now and WCIT perhaps set it off, and the discussion that the UN General Assembly might have in late 2015 on the conclusions of the review of the World Summit on the Information Society, we have an opportunity to frame the debate. We have the World Telecommunications Policy Forum in May, a very important opportunity to discuss internet governance. At that forum, at least we won't discuss whether we should be discussing internet governance, because internet governance is the issue of the agenda, and we should embrace all the facets of it at that important conference in Geneva in May. At the same time, of course, the ITU will be hosting the WSIS Forum in May, and then later on, the ITU in 2014 will hold a major conference on the WSIS review. Some of us were in Paris last week for an excellent session that the UNESCO hosted in terms of that first stage of the WSIS review. And I think it's very important that all the actors take part in that, in reviewing the progress that has been made since the Tunis summit in 2005. So, Mr. Chairman, I'll conclude there, but thank you very much for inviting us today.